Jen motherfucking Lightfoot.
Harry
How?
motherfucking Nichols.
I really wanted to start off strong.
I like it. I like it.
With a lot of attitude.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how's your month been? How's your life?
Oh, man. My life is good. My life is objectively good. You know what I mean? Like, objectively.
Okay.
I'm a complainer. You know, it's just, it's in my bones. I'm a teacher. So, like, if you want to learn how to complain, you need to hang out with a bunch of teachers.
I thought you were going to say become a teacher.
Oh, if you want to learn how to complain, become a teacher too. Yeah. That's great. How's your month going?
I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's January.
Nothing new.
Well, right before we started recording, I was mentioning that I'm putting out a new EP of songs. And I just put out a Chapel Roan cover that is very different from the original. So I feel like Chapel Roan fans
with a new twist
may not love it, but yeah.
No, they might like it though.
It's like if Tori Amos did.
It's like dark wavy too.
Yeah,
though. I've heard it.
Dark wavy.
Yeah, spoiler alert. I've heard it with everybody. She's telling me like I don't know this already, but I do know
it's
this.
For the people.
It's for the people. Yeah. So you should check it out. What's the Chapel Roan song though?
Hot to Go.
Hot to Go.
Yeah. So Tegan, my partner, who was people know was on this podcast, was like, you should do Hot to Go in a really weird way, and I was like, okay.
So where did you? Sorry, now this is a music podcast. How did you decide on the direction for it? Because it's like spooky and vibey, and it's got good. I feel like there's like synth going on. Is that what that is? Yeah, cool.
There's synths. I think I was listening to the song, and there is a synth melody underneath, and I was like, I am not a pop singer, so I've got to change this. And I was like, what if it was fucking sad?
Cool.
What if Hot to Go sounded sad?
Nice.
So yeah, that's where it went.
Hot to Go. Is it a sexy song, or is it like what does Hot to Go mean? Like I don't really know the lyrics that well.
I mean, honestly, the lyrics kind of sound like she's writing a song for someone for them to have sex with her. So I think that's kind of what it is.
So it is a sexy song.
Yeah.
But like in a sad way now.
In a sad way now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Reluctantly?
it's the walk of shame version, like the day after.
I love that take. That's great. Yes, 100%. So everyone should go listen to that. That's a thing. Jen Lightfoot, Hot to Go. A brand new cover by Jen Lightfoot. I said Jen Lightfoot twice.
And while we're on music, I saw Harry perform System of a Down's Toxicity the other night, and it was pretty awesome.
I keep a little surge in my back pocket. That sounded wrong. Yeah, I like System of a Down.
yeah.
It's part of my upbringing, my formative years.
The early 2000s new metal.
Oh yeah, all the cool kids in school wore like Korn t-shirts, and System of a Down t-shirts, and there was one dude who wore an Insane Clown Posse. I never understood how he got away with it, but it was Delhi, New York, and people just didn't know, I guess.
Man, fucking Insane Clown Posse.
Do you have experience? Are you a juggalo?
No, God, no. No.
So believe it or not, we are not here to talk about Insane Clown Posse.
No, or music.
Well,
the person we're going to talk about did make albums.
Wait, he did?
David Lynch?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he made albums. There was music videos.
What kinds of music?
I mean, it really sounds like the music that would play in his movies.
So.
Kind of like electronic, slow, bluesy, fucking weird. So yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna put some on my phone for the ride home.
A really good one is because he does sing. It was more like sing talking. But there's one where Karen O of the Yeah Yeah Yeahs sings on it. It's called Pinky's Dream. It's really good.
Cool. I listened to. By the way, dear listener, we're talking about David Lynch today. Maybe this has all been the tone. The tone of this whole conversation has been wrong so far because David Lynch has died. And we're here.
And we started this on a really happy note.
Yes, like really unusually like upbeat.
But this is actually maybe fitting because David Lynch's films tonally make you uncomfortable.
They do.
So maybe we're making the viewer uncomfortable.
It's an homage. Mm-hmm. We're A24ing this motherfucker. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so because he's like not just a filmmaker, he's like kind of almost like a public figure too. Like I get a lot of him in interviews on my Instagram, and I've always like swiped past it or listened on mute, and I had never heard his voice before.
Wait, what?
Yeah, and so, but today I was like, oh, I'm getting ready to do this thing. I wonder if there's any cool interviews out there. Then I'm like, I'm on my break. I'm just gonna like listen to some of these, and I was so unbelievably disappointed by the sound of his voice. It is so like nasally and like not at all what I thought.
It's very weird.
It's gonna be based on his hair and like the cigarette and his whole demeanor. I don't know what I expected, but it was not. It's weird.
It's not what you'd expect.
Yeah.
No. I have to ask, what were some of the interviews you were watching? Because I watched one earlier where he's talking about turning down Star Wars, which was great.
Oh my God. No, I haven't seen that one. Mm-hmm. That's so funny. All of mine were like softball, like him like talking. It looks like it's some kind of filmmaking class or just kind of pontificating about like music or like inspiration and stuff like that. I kind of wanted something a little more in the weeds to look at,
weirder.
But Instagram was not serving it up to me. So
if I can find it again, I'll send it to you and I'll share it in our stories.
Well, and I really want to watch that interview that like everybody reposts where he like says a thing and then the interviewer is like, expound upon that. And he just says no.
Yes, I haven't been able to find that one.
Yeah, I want to see it.
Which I love that he does.
I
that.
do too. Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So we're here to talk about David Lynch.
We're talking about David Lynch. I have some questions that maybe we could use to just jump in if you're ready.
I'm ready.
Let's start like abstract first. David Lynch in general.
Okay.
Because we each have brought a movie that we want to talk about as well to this conversation. But so the term Lynchian to describe movies and life in general is pretty popular, I'd say. But I imagine that it's one of those words that can kind of mean a lot of things. What do you think Lynchian means?
I use that word a lot.
Yeah.
I think if I were to define it, obviously his movies have kind of a similar tone or, vibe to them. So I feel like it's that, but I feel like it's something that would be visually surreal but nightmarish at the same time, familiar but unsettling. So I feel like that's kind of what I think of. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, just like a feeling of feeling uncomfortable, but maybe not knowing why.
Okay.
I do think like ambient, surreal, ambiguous, like those kinds of things, like with watching films or stuff like that.
Totally.
What would you define it as?
Yeah, I think you're dead on about like sort of unplaceable strangeness in a way. Like, although certainly often I think in his movies the strangeness is very placeable, but like. Just kind of like the unsettling weirdness of regular moments, I think is like a really key thing. Talking about his movies in general too, I think that he's got some like, a lot of people have described his movies as like, or some of his movies as like the Mobius strip, where he's got kind of two premises and they each kind of feed into each other. They each exist in small ways in each other's spaces, but like they are kind of largely confined to their own sections. You know what I mean?
That's so interesting. Yeah, you're right.
And it's definitely true of the two movies we're talking about today. I suspect, I should also mention for this that I am not like a David Lynch expert in any way. I have not seen it all for sure. I haven't even seen some of his like bigger things. So
what would you say would be one that's bigger that you haven't seen?
I haven't seen Twin Peaks.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is bigger, but it's also a lot of commitment. Like,
Yeah, and, so I started it. I did start it, but
okay.
I just never finished it. I think I was trying to watch it at a time where I was like having kids, and it just like wasn't conducive.
My partner Tegan and I were like rewatching the third one because we actually never quite made it to like the ending, or if we did, we don't remember it.
Yeah.
And I think now I'm in more of a place where I'm like, oh, I really want to watch this. I feel like you have to be in that place where you want to watch it, because otherwise, like the second season of Twin Peaks, I don't actually know if I've made it all the way through, even though I really
Because you were
like
so
it,
drunk
but,
at
like,
the time.
I was, yeah. Oh my god.
I've only seen like half of Eraserhead. I feel bad about that one.
It's so good.
I've never seen The Elephant Man.
Elephant Man is actually the first time I saw Elephant Man, I was like, this is a David Lynch movie?
Yeah.
It's so fucking sad. It's really good.
I actually, yeah. I think he touches on tragedy a little bit here and there. But the ones that I have seen and that I love, and that to come back to the term Lynchian, the way I'm defining this term is like Blue Velvet. I'm a huge fan of Blue Velvet.
Love that one.
Mulholland Drive, Lost Highway.
Have you seen Dune?
Yes, I have seen it. I don't really count that one.
No, I don't count that either.
Wild at Heart.
Oh, I love that one. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So yeah, granted, all of you thousands and thousands of listeners out there, that we are not I am not a total David Lynch expert. I don't know if you would consider yourself one.
No, I'm a fan of his movies, but I wouldn't say I know much about him as a person.
Yeah, got you. Well, I think he's intentionally kept that a little bit mysterious too. The word that kept coming up in his obituaries when he died was like enigmatic. So like clearly like his like persona fed into his art and created like an air of mystery, which I'm sure helped his success a little bit.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So just like a little bit about the idea of Lynchian, what it means to be Lynchian. What do you have a concrete memory of what was your first David Lynch experience?
I do.
Can you tell me?
Yes. So I'm pretty sure, at least this is the way I remember it, is that the first one I saw was Eraserhead.
Okay.
So I was dating this girl in high school, and we would go to her house after school and watch movies. She was obsessed with Eraserhead. And I remember we watched it together, and I was like, what is this? This is amazing, but also, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It is weird. It's aggressive, that one.
I've
only seen half of it, and I know that. Yeah.
Have you seen the first or the second half?
First half.
First half. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the part with like the dinner table and the
little
chicks
chickens.
And yeah.
Have you seen The Baby?
I don't remember if I've seen The Baby yet. Yeah.
The Baby. Yeah, it's real. It's really weird, but I was like, oh, I love this, and now I need to like watch more of it. But I don't think I actually watched more until I went to college.
Oh, why?
Well, I was a senior when I watched it, and I think, I would have to go to Blockbuster and watch it with my mom in the room.
Right,
which
right.
I didn't really want to do. But she actually does like David Lynch now, so it would have been okay, apparently. What was yours? What was your first?
So when I was in high school, I was like, oh, I like weird movies. Like I got on a kick of like, I don't know what my gateways really were, but like, I know what my gateway was. My gateway movie was Donnie Darko.
Yes!
Where I like watched that movie and I was like, oh, this is weird. I like this. And then I went looking for movies, and I became aware of my first movie, which was Mulholland Drive. But it was years before I actually the forces that be were in the right positioning for me to like remember to grab it and take it home. I went off to college, and it wasn't until I was like in the library one day being like, man, I'm fucking bored. What do I do? Oh, they have DVDs here. Let me go find that movie. And I put it in, and I watched it with my then girlfriend, who after the movie finished, very striking ending to that movie, she wept openly. She like cried, and I had found the movie strange, all the things you're supposed to feel, unsettling and weird and mysterious, and but that reaction really surprised me. And
that's a very surprising reaction.
Yeah, well, it has to do with like, I think that she was maybe not. It just like circumstances of her life like kind of led to a lot of that stuff. She had like. Our relationship had started. This may get cut out. Our relationship had started after she had left her then girlfriend that she was with, and it was like a borderline, like kind of messed up, abusive situation. But she had all these depressive issues, and like their split was fraught with concerns about like self-harm and stuff like that. And so I think, coming into this movie where you have, really strong queer relationship representation that is proven to be impossible and ends in a suicide was like a really strong experience for her.
Especially when you're younger too. There's like something like it feels more visceral in a way.
Right.
I don't know when you're watching
she's carrying around a lot of the like guilt about their breakup and stuff like that. And but yeah, and I'm sure that also added to it was just the strangeness of all of it.
It's a very like, I feel like that's the thing David Lynch movies do, where they make you feel things.
No, I hate that.
But like feel things where you're like, I don't know why I feel this way.
Should we dig into the movies that we're going to talk about today?
Yeah.
So you wanted to talk about Lost Highway.
Yeah.
Right? I want to talk about Mulholland Drive.
Mm-hmm.
My question for you is, how did you first encounter Lost Highway? What was the...
I actually don't know.
Oh.
I was trying to remember that. And I don't remember the first time I saw Lost Highway. I know, it's such a boring story. I should have made up something.
That's how very Lynchian. It's just like you can't...
That's true. It just magically appeared.
Well, but why this movie for you? Why?
That's a good question. So these are, I guess, what, our favorite movies?
Yeah, they're just that's why we
the ones that stand out.
Yeah.
I especially the first half of Lost Highway, like it's so weird. It's so creepy. First of all, I love Patricia Arquette and I love Bill Pullman.
Hell yeah.
And there's just something about like it's so slow moving. It's so uncomfortable and everything feels shadowy and dark and unsettling. And there's a shot where it's one of the videotapes I think that he gets in the mail, Bill Pullman gets in the mail.
Yeah.
And it's the one where it shows, it's almost like, it's like kind of quick, where it shows like Patricia Arquette's like dismembered body.
Yeah.
And that always sticks with me. I don't know why. I mean, I love a crime situation.
Sure.
I think it's one of his most, I don't know why I feel this way, but I feel like it's the one that you could interpret the most in different ways. Like it's very non-linear, like that part where he's in like the prison and suddenly changes into another person. It's like you can read it in so many different ways. I actually was looking at quotes that people had said about the movie, and I really, really liked a quote that Patricia Arquette had said. It was her interpretation. She said, "To me, it's sort of a movie about looking at women through the eyes of a misogynist. So he's totally obsessed with her, can't love her enough, can't have her to himself enough, can't kill her enough times." I really like that as a reading. I think it's interesting that like it kind of is through his eyes, and the women in it are sort of his like...
Who's his? I'm sorry.
Bill Pullman. Okay. Like his like fantasy, I guess, of what? Fred. Yeah. Because even Alice, who doesn't exist probably, is like a porn star to him. Right. Or like, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's not, so something I wanted to ask you is like, what is this fucking movie about? Like, because I feel like that I can answer that question for most of the other Lynch movies that I've seen. Like Blue Velvet, that's about undermining the suburban, white picket fence of it all. Mulholland Drive is very much like a rejection of the Hollywood dream, I think, just broadly speaking. And I really struggled to think of like, what the fuck is
Lost Highway about? Yeah, I do often have that feeling when I watch it. Because I feel like there are moments where I'm like, oh, it's about, misogyny. Yeah. Oh, but, no, it's about maybe his guilt. Yeah. Of, like a psychotic breakdown. Right. But I never have a set theme because there's so many fucking weird things, like the fucking mystery man or like the cabin on fire. Like they're great visuals, and I think that's what it is for me. It's the most dreamlike nightmarish because like dreams don't always make sense. Right. So, but yeah, I'm not 100% sure like what that theme would be.
Yeah, and like it's so weird for me. So like, dear listener, I'm an English teacher. I like figure out and talk about thematic material in art, for work and for fun, apparently. And so it's pretty rare that I like can watch a movie and be like so captivated by it. I found it so engrossing, but then be so befuddled at the end of it too. Like I was just really like, what? But I think that that's totally right. I think that there is something in this movie that is about men trying to own women. We see that in Dick Laurent.
Oh, that's right. And that's the first quote in the movie, isn't it?
Dick Laurent is dead. Yeah. So Dick Laurent is, the most obvious example of that. But like even the kid, Pete Dayton, is, when she is trying to say that they should rob that pornographer's house so that they can make their getaway, he's like very hyper focused on the idea that like, was she in pornographic films and was she in all this, and then Fred, Bill Pullman, my dude, who I'll give my spiel about Bill Pullman in a second. I had a hard time placing his character and what his character wants and what he's doing. Do you have any insight on that?
I think with him I feel the psychotic break or like the guilt, the like, because he's killed his wife. Right. Like it's there. Either like, does he not want to believe it? Is he imagining her? Like, because she's there getting the videotapes, but yeah.
It's weird. Yeah. And he's like taking on, another form to like sleep with Alice in another life and then murdering the guy that she's with, for himself in the future. It's absolutely weird and Mobius strippy and it's crazy. And I feel like it's also one of those movies too. Maybe this is just because it's like so 1990s.
It is.
But like it's also one of those movies where I feel like it's so much objectification of Patricia Arquette. Yeah. Like a lot of boobs in this movie.
There are a lot of boobs. I forgot. That could be another reason I like it.
Yeah, I mean,
am I canceled for that?
No. Why would you be canceled for liking boobs?
More boobs in movies.
That's right. That's what our merch is going to say.
I want to objectify women in movies.
Okay, now you're canceled. You took it too far.
Damn it. But yay.
Can we make a T-shirt that says like more boobs in movies?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then it says Harry and Jen are with friends on the back.
100. Could I have like a little picture of boobs in the front?
Absolutely. All right. We could definitely do something clever with the art.
Yes, with the O's.
Yes, definitely. Yep.
Right.
Easy. That's low hanging fruit.
It's our first merch item.
Perfect. Jen, you're gonna design it.
All right. I'm on it.
No, yeah, I mean, so my spiel about Bill Pullman, which I repeat to everybody, you must have heard it at this point.
I don't know, but I love Bill Pullman.
I don't just love Bill Pullman. I love Bill Pullman. And it's because he went to college in my hometown.
Really?
Yes. So my hometown was Delhi, New York. It is the middle of fucking nowhere. There was a single traffic light when I was growing up, more cows than people, but there is a 2-year like associate's degree college that he went to for like a short time before he was in movies and before he was famous. And so like as a young kid, a young performer growing up, I heard that he had done that, and I just formed this like attachment and obsession with him because like what other performers like ever came out of Delhi, New York. So that every time I see him work, it feels like a tiny little victory for myself. And
I love that.
Yeah, so every time and especially seeing him in like a lead role like this and such a cool movie and such a weird movie, yeah, it tickles me. I love it.
Yeah, I love that. I was like thinking that you were going to say that you'd met him, which would be fucking cool.
I wish.
Bill Pullman, if you're listening.
I wrote a song for you. Come seek me out.
Oh my God.
Cool. Well, do you have more to say about the Lost Highway?
Well, not about Lost Highway, but quickly about colleges and universities and such. David Lynch went to the school that I went to for grad school.
Oh shit! You basically know David Lynch.
I basically know David Lynch.
Well, you knew David Lynch.
I walked in a room that he had once been in.
Damn.
So there was the aura of David.
You could still smell his musk.
I could still, yeah.
I imagine he's
the
got
coffee
musk.
and the
cigarettes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, no, that's it. That's all I have.
Good. No, that's beautiful. I love that.
Okay, so yours is Mulholland Drive.
That's right.
We know how you first saw Mulholland Drive.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But like, what made it stick out to you? Like, what made it become
like this is the movie that I want to talk about for this? It's because I also after my girlfriend weeping at the end of Mulholland Drive experience, I then took it to my housemates and showed it to them. Mm-hmm. And we formed like a little obsessive club about it. We watched it like 3 or 4 times.
That's amazing. Wait, in one day? In a week?
No, over the course of a couple of weeks.
Okay.
You know, like we all had shit to do. But like, yeah, and we were just like all kind of like, just really obsessed with it. I think that it thematically speaks to something that I'm also just kind of like, I find inherently interesting, which is like the romanticization of Hollywood, which I kind of can't ever get enough of. I've listened to the whole Red Hot Chili Peppers discography for fuck's sake. So yeah, this is a movie that is. What's interesting about this movie, I think, perhaps compared to Lost Highway, is that David Lynch insists that there is a coherent, comprehensible plot to
Mulholland Drive.
To Mulholland Drive.
Which I can see that with that one. Like I love Mulholland Drive, but it is an interesting Lynch movie because it has like there are things that are connections that literally make sense as connections. It's not just like, well, that's a thing.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and I had picked up on this when I was obsessed with it in college, but I rewatched it for this, and I think it weirdly locks together for a David Lynch movie. Like and this is like you can find all sorts of theories and shit all over the internet, but I'll just say very briefly, I ascribe to the idea that like basically the first 2/3 of the movie is a huge dream sequence, and then really what she's dealing with is processing the last 45 minutes of the movie, maybe even less, where she is revealed that Naomi Watts, who plays Diane, is struggling to be a successful actress who is also in love with another actress who has, it is implied, just gotten engaged to a director, and she feels like very powerless in her situation, and like what it leads her to do is put out a hit on this actress who she is in love with, and the whole movie is like a processing of the guilt from that, feelings of powerlessness in her real life, which then invert to being unbelievably powerful in her dream life, where she's Betty. and the whole world kind of revolves around her, and she's on this like sort of hot lesbian Nancy Drew ass murder mystery, right?
And the woman she's in love with is in trouble. So it's
and like needs her.
Yeah,
like, so totally the opposite of that, where
Totally the
she's
opposite.
riding the coattails in real life of the woman who she's in love with.
Yes.
And she wouldn't have a career otherwise, you know. I will say, you mentioned Elephant Man being very sad. I also find this movie like very tragic in a way, and it's in the cartoonish dream that we really sense that tragedy, because you know it's just so the opposite. What are the things that stick out to you about Mulholland Drive?
I think, well, okay. So one thing it does, which I guess is kind of like the Mobius strip, is that what it is? Mm-hmm. I think, like, yes, Lost Highway does it. Yes, Blue Velvet, you could argue, does it in some way. But I feel like Mulholland Drive, the way it does it, where it's suddenly that shift halfway through the movie, is, like, incredible storytelling, which I feel like is different from other David Lynch films. So I feel like it makes it stand out in that way. But it does still have the weird nightmarish stuff, which I really love.
Yeah.
Like the old woman coming out from behind the... Is it an old woman? Old man?
It's an old couple. They're smiling.
Yeah. Behind the trash can. Is that it?
Super weird.
Yeah. It's so weird.
Yeah, they crawl out of... So there's a scene. You remember the like person behind the Twinkies?
Yes.
And that person has like just a brown paper bag.
Yes. Yeah.
And in it, at the end of the movie, is the blue box that somehow ends up with Naomi Watts, and who we then later realize is Camilla, and they crawl, tiny versions of them crawl out of the brown paper bag.
Yes.
And then crawl under her door in her apartment.
That's right.
Yeah, it's so strange.
It's so strange.
I also was really struck with like just how artful the dream is stylistically. Something I think I missed when I watched it earlier is just how cheap and bad the dream sequence looks.
Is the one where she's kind of dancing, doing the jitterbug? Or the whole beginning?
That's like, I don't know what maybe that's like falling asleep or something. The movie starts with, and this is how we know it's a dream, right? The camera raises up off of a pillow and then goes back down onto the pillow.
Yes.
And then we get the main story, right?
You're right.
So like, but the way the main story is just sort of played out is it looks like a bad movie. Like the acting is so over the top. And I almost wondered if like it was shot on video or something. Like it looks cheap. It looks facade-y and weird to me. Somebody else like check me on that out there. I don't know, but like I really feel like there's a difference in film quality between the dream and the reality of that movie. And I just thought it was really awesome. I just thought, it's what a subtle hand it takes to arrange all of those things to create that effect, to contrast the second half of the movie.
That is interesting, because I don't know if I always recognize when something is filmed on like a different kind of film, but I do remember watching it and being like, there's a color shift from like the dream to
Definitely. It's
reality.
Like brighter. The dream is brighter.
Yes, yeah. And it's like, I think that it's subtle, but I think it really works to show that it's like two different worlds, however you want to interpret it. I also feel like the dream fits as an interpretation.
Definitely, yeah.
I feel like David Lynch loves to like, or loved, oh, sadness, loved to do, loved like, kind of like a soap opera type acting.
A little bit,
like kind of over the top.
It's always a little over the top. I feel like the dream sequence is like even more than regular.
So I don't know how often David Lynch did something like this, but in the most recent revival of Twin Peaks. Apparently, like, the actors didn't have the whole script.
Oh.
So they wouldn't know the plot. And Matthew Lillard in particular was like struggled a little bit. Like he was like, I want to do a good job because it's David Lynch, but also like struggled to like be like, it was like a weird process, he said, for him to be like, okay, I'm acting as this character, but I don't have any context around the character.
That's super interesting.
So I wonder if David Lynch does that a lot, because a lot of the characters, it feels like they don't have a grasp on actually what's happening.
Yeah. And they just kind of accept things that any normal person would be like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That they wouldn't accept.
Right. Bill Pullman, takes a tape daily into his home.
Yes. And puts it on.
Puts it on. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like an unmarked envelope with a VHS tape
with a
in
menacing VHS tape. Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God.
Absolutely. What else to say about this movie? I never want to stop talking about this movie. I love this movie so much.
I mean, I will say Naomi Watts is amazing in it. I love her in it.
She's so good. And you know what? She really does shine in this movie too, because again, so coming back to the sort of reversal of power dynamics that we see in the dream from her real life. She's shown to be this like supernatural like actor, right? She's like coming up, rolling in from Canada with the stars in her eyes, this big Hollywood dream, and Hollywood just opens up to her. You know what I mean? And she gets this like big audition. Everyone ushers her into the room, and they're so nice to her, and in a way that that shit
that would never happen,
right? They've seen 1,000 beautiful,
and it clearly didn't happen in her real life, because when the shift happens, it's
right. But then she gets this scene, and she has to read it with this like leathery old man. Yes. And when she's practicing it in the kitchen, it's like bad. But then as soon as she's reading it with this dude, she just like turns it on, and like the whole room is just like, right? And it's just this incredibly like hot, sexy performance that she's able to just like pull completely out of her ass, and has like the whole room eating out of the palm of her hand. Like, to go from, the sort of star-eyed Nancy Drew to that. It's just, no context, just the snap of a finger. It's so great. It's so great.
Yes, it is.
Can you help me unpack what I find to be one of the more confusing or hard to interpret elements of this movie that I also think is really central? Do you remember Club Silencio?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Give me more of a refresher.
So, after they sleep together, Rita and Betty. Rita wakes up shouting, Silencio, Silencio, no high banda. And she just knows that they have to go. And so they get in a taxi and they go to this weird club in the middle of nowhere where there's a man who lays out the premise, and he says, welcome to the Club Silencio, no high banda, there is no band. And he goes on this whole display about how everything is that they're hearing is pre-recorded. And, they bring out a trumpet player, and the trumpet player seems like he's playing, but then he takes the trumpet away, but the trumpet music keeps going. And, they do all this like silly choreography with the tape. And, it's very clear that it's all pre-recorded. And then out comes this woman singing a song in Spanish. And they, being Rita and Betty, just get so moved. They start like weeping in each other's arms at this woman who then, of course, like at the climax of her performance, like faints, and the music keeps going. And you're just like reminded all over again that it's pre-recorded.
I mean, I think there's multiple ways that you could read it.
Give me a reading.
As you're talking about it, because it's a dream, there's two things overlapping. So like real life and then the dream on top or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So in a way, the music constantly playing is kind of like real life, where it doesn't stop, and the performers are more like the dream, where they're not actually participating in it in a way. Like they're not like they are, but like part of them is participating, but the other part's not.
Interesting.
So it's like being asleep, maybe.
Oh, okay.
One other thing I will say about that scene is David Lynch loved a performance scene, like
He
a
sure
lounge
does.
scene.
Tell me more about that.
Well, because
I have one in mind too, but yeah.
well, Blue Velvet
There's one in Blue
obviously
Velvet. Yeah,
has Isabella Rossellini. Wild at Heart has a metal band that's performing, and what's his name? Nicolas Cage grabs the microphone and sings Elvis, an Elvis song to Laura Dern, while the metal band performs this song that's kind of like a loungy song.
Oh, interesting.
Twin Peaks has like a venue that has like lounge music. In the 80s ones or 90s, I think it was Julie Cruz who did a lot of it. In the new one, it's like a range of artists. What else is there? Lost Highway doesn't have one though, does it?
Well, Lost Highway, I mean, Bill Pullman plays the saxophone.
That's right.
Like,
Holy shit, how could I forget?
Yeah.
So Bill Pullman has the saxophone stage performance scene.
Yeah.
Am I missing a David Lynch movie? I mean, yes.
I'm impressed already, so you can stop. But
I can't think of any others at the moment. But he loves a stage performance.
He does. And so when I think about too, like it's also a lip syncing performance in Blue Velvet, isn't there? Yeah. When he's like hanging out. You remember when I can't remember any of the characters' names in that movie, but the McLaughlin is hanging out with Dennis Hopper and his whole crew of crazy people. And there's somebody dressed like, I just remember there's somebody dressed like a clown.
Yeah.
And they like lip sync to a song.
In the house.
In the house. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder what that's all about. Like lip syncing.
Lip syncing, you're right.
I think it's about illusions.
Illusions.
Hollywood is an illusion. It's the facade that so much that we put out to face the whole rest of the world in a huge way, right? Like, if this is a movie that is in some way tackling the Hollywood dream, right?
Yeah.
Maybe having like a central scene of it be about a literal disillusionment where you're falling for the illusion and then all of a sudden you're not.
That's interesting.
It's really cool. Do you have any sort of enigmatic scenes that you've like always wondered at regarding Lost Highway that we could kick around?
I've always wondered what exactly to make or interpret of the scene where Bill Pullman is in prison.
Okay.
And I guess is he having the headaches at that time? And all of a sudden it switches into Pete. Yeah. The young kid.
Right.
Like, is that a version of him?
Right.
Is it in his head? Because it also seems like the guards, like
the guards are surprised.
Yeah.
Right. They're like, oh shit.
It doesn't seem. I've always, every time I watch it, I feel like I'm trying to like interpret something about it. What would do you have a reading of it?
I don't know. It's such a weird moment. If we're talking about the Mobius strip of David Lynch movies, right? That's the part where you suddenly realize that you're on the other side of the paper, right? And it's added extra weirdness by the fact that Pete's family, his dad, played by the incomparable Carrie Busey, keeps alluding to like something having happened to him in the past, and they never concretely tell us what it is, of course.
No.
But is Bill Pullman the fantasy of this kid? Is this kid just the fantasy of Bill Pullman? Like, I truly...
Like, which one is...
Right.
Which one is reality?
I don't know. Or are they both and they just kind of feed into each other? It's... And yet they have these shared aspects, like the pornographer guy who appears in both.
Yes.
And it seems to have a fairly consistent role in both, unlike Patricia Arquette, whose character kind of seems to change.
And she has different names.
And she has a different name, and one of them just kind of seems like a housewife or something. Well, she does do a lot of drinking, and so I wondered if there was maybe something.
Oh,
is there like a is that drinking to compensate for being unhappy about being stuck at home or whatever?
I mean, the way that whole beginning is shot definitely feels like it's not a great relationship.
Yeah, well, and the way they act together seems
uncomfortable and kind of distant. And, yeah.
So we picked two movies that are like the millennial Lynch. I feel like it's like 97 and 2001, Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive. Do you feel that these movies connect to our generation in any particular way, or are they just the movies that he happened to be making at the time that we happened to be looking for them?
I mean, I do think there is something to say that we were both kind of in high school-ish age when we first heard about David Lynch and these movies. So I feel like it would make sense that the ones we saw around that time were these films as opposed to jumping back to something that was made in the 80s.
Right, like the 70s or something.
Yeah. Do you have a thought?
It was not a small thing that attracted me to Mulholland Drive that I feel like the baby boomers were the last vestige of people to maybe sincerely and unquestioningly believe in the Hollywood dream. Mm-hmm. And so it was for later disillusioned generations to then find something that calls that into question interesting. I just feel like maybe it lines up with post-boomer attitudes about certain American institutions. Blue Velvet's another good one like that, right? Where it's like the white picket fence.
Yes.
And
it literally has a white picket fence in it.
First thing you see is that weird parade, or is it, or something? Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because I'm like, what drew us to David Lynch? Yours was Donnie Darko and weird movies, and mine was seeing Eraserhead. So maybe it was also that discovery of okay, what am I, I'm a teenager. What am I discovering that I like?
Right. And also an attraction to the aesthetic experience over a movie.
Yes.
Versus its content, perhaps. Although I don't think that Lynch is aesthetics over content in any way. But
not at all.
But to a teenager who is not super well versed in film, and that aesthetic is strong, and it's really attention grabbing.
It's interesting though that you said that because I feel like in a lot of the movies we've reviewed, especially last year, one of our biggest critiques constantly was that they were style over substance.
Style over substance, yep.
And I feel like none of them have figured out how to do what David Lynch did. Yeah. Which, even if you couldn't put the pieces completely together, there was still substance there. Yeah. It wasn't just style, even though the style was important and done artistically, but there was still depth there and substance.
Well, it makes me think of you're an artist. It makes me think of abstract art, and how it's interesting to me that we as a film going culture, it seems like we don't really appreciate abstract film in a way that I think David Lynch kind of reaches into with his surrealism. It becomes a little abstract and a little, it's
it
not
does
as
become
concrete.
Abstract. Yeah, which is interesting because the art world, I feel like sometimes the abstract art is valued more than representational, because it's that's what sells in galleries. But people don't always want that in their movies. Yeah. And I love it when they do that. Right. I'm give me the fucking weird.
I'm super into that. Yeah, yes.
What were we watching?
It can tip over into too far. It can get. What,
yeah, I
you have
know.
anything to say?
Well, I was like, are you going to say Skinamarink?
No, no, no. I think Skinamarink is a surreal movie.
I do think it's David Lynch inspired though, because I recently watched Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, the movie. Laura Palmer is given a photograph, and it's just like a door, and like it's like literally like the inside of a house, and the door to like this room is slightly ajar, and it's so goddamn unsettling. And I was like, Skinamarink.
Yeah, sure.
Like, but yeah, I think that like a lot of people who make ambiguous or more stylistic movies feel like there needs to be a definitive like storyline or something. I don't know. Like, stay ambiguous. Like, if you're going to be ambiguous,
be provocative enough to be eliciting consistent emotions from your reader. Like, well, and the other thing too is that, you know, I think David Lynch does movies that are not abstract. They're surreal and like evocative, but they're also like very original.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where the style over substance we're talking about with a lot of our critiques of movies last year is like very derivative.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we're intentionally doing this person's movie.
Yeah, like we've seen it before. Whereas with David Lynch, like we were talking about with the little blue cube and the little tiny old people,
Right.
I can't say another movie that I've seen that done.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, or just the strange way that like the plot kind of recurses on itself. You know,
Yeah.
Betty and Rita discover the dead body of Diane in the dream. And then at the end of the movie, Diane becomes that dead body in the same way. Like, how, you know, that's just one of those kind of like logic defying things that like really frustrates some people, but also just like I think is a huge mark of his style and originality.
Yes. Yeah.
So David Lynch is dead.
Okay.
R.I.P. I had more to say. I wasn't just going to say that.
All right, go on. I cut you off.
What do you feel like? What do you hope that film and art takes from him going forward?
I don't want a copycat to come out. You know
Same.
what I mean?
Yeah, I don't want someone coming out. I don't want the next fucking A24
No.
to be like, goddamn, here's a David Lynch copycat. Yeah,
I don't want it. But there are some directors that we've talked about on this podcast that I have hope, not that they would ever, I don't know if anyone could ever achieve the level of success that David Lynch made as a surrealist, successful filmmaker that also put narrative plots in the surrealist thing.
Yeah.
But I think that artistically, thinking of artistic movies that are unsettling, I am very curious to see what, I'm not going to remember any of these names, by the way.
Okay.
The director of stop motion does.
Yeah, I don't remember that guy's name.
I don't either, but it was there were some interesting things. I've seen a couple short films he's done before that, and they were unnerving and strange and unique because they're stop animation and they're his stop animation.
Yeah.
So I really hope.
Oh, the cat with hands, you mean?
Yeah, but there's another one. He did like a Belial's Dream, which is related to Basket Case.
Oh, interesting.
And it's really, really weird. So I feel like I'm curious about him. And when I say this, I'm like, these are people who I hope do not do the big Hollywood movie. Like David Lynch turned down Star Wars and did Dune. And yes, I know it was a flop, but you know, he turned down the billions of dollars to do his art.
Right.
And then the other one, I don't know if it's quite as much as the person who did stop motion, but the one who did Caveat and Oddity. His movies are very original. There's surrealist aspects to them. He's another one who I would like to see do his own thing.
Yeah.
And not, because I'm like, these are people who I'm like, they are not copycats, but they have Lynchian aspects to them.
Yeah.
That's what I hope, that there's some like new artsy, like directors who incorporate horror
Same.
into them. But like, yeah, what do you hope?
I think that's exactly what, I want. I want like I want auteurs to try new things and strike off on their own. I'm so tired of the repeated movies made of nods. I know that we were just praising The Substance for that, but like, yeah, and it worked in that case, but like, I feel like most of the cases where I see that, it doesn't really for me. And, yeah, I just want people to have the fucking guts to like make movies that weird.
Yes.
And yeah, and just for talented people to be able to do that on a bigger scale. So there you go.
Yep, I agree.
That's my feeling about David Lynch.
Yeah.
Can I do our soundbite for today?
100% you can. I do not.
But do you have anything else to say? Anything? Okay, my soundbite. Ready? Mm-hmm. Silencio.